is going on, guys? Holy fuck. It's moving real quick at the moment. It's moving real quick. Um, so as far as I've seen, this has been out for maybe a couple hours. So I got it as quick as I can for you guys. I'm going to make it really quick because, in case you haven't noticed, on my channel, in the playlist options, there's a playlist called Patch Notes that has got about an hour and a half, maybe close to 2 hours worth of footage taken from the Hi-Rez Twitch channel about absolutely everything that's going on with just examples and just showing you everything in detail with some of the hosts. So definitely go check that out. But if you didn't manage to get a chance to check that out because it's a little bit long, I'm going to do this one because it's going to be a little bit quicker. So first of all, New God, like, oh my God, fucking New God. This dude's amazing. He's a warrior. He also has a dog. I don't know if we're not going to be able to see the dog. So his passive, each time Erlang Shen, hits an enemy with a basic attack, his dog hits as well for 15% of the basic attack power, which triggers items for basic attacks and their normal damage and can crit. So, you know, if you build this dude up nicely and you build like a couple crit items on him or even one crit item, you could end up doing a fair amount of damage with the dog on plus. So that's just fucking awesome. Spot weakness. This is a buff that gives you extra physical power on each strikes, ignores basic attack penalty for the duration of the 5 seconds. Now, when I was watching this on the PTS patch note, it looked like it ignores the basic attack movement speed penalty on the last hit. So I don't think it is 5 seconds. I actually think it's about 2 seconds, but I could be wrong. They might have sorted that out since yesterday, and it might be just for the whole duration of the move. Anyway, really cool move. Pin, he chucks a spear that has a really nice range on it. I think it's 70 range, so that's pretty nice already. And it hits for, as you can see, a reasonable amount of damage. Like, that's definitely a decent amount. And on a 12-second cooldown, that's really going to be, that could be one of his best moves. If you hit them in the center, which I believe the actual, I think it's about a, I'm going to say 30 to 35 ring that you can hit them in, and I'm going to say the middle of that ring is 20. If you hit them with the middle, they're rooted in place for up to 1.75 seconds, which is insanely long. Awesome, good stuff. By far his best move. This god, in case you guys didn't know, is a little bit like Sun Wukong. He has 72 transformations, and that's why this ability is called 72 transformations, just like Sun Wukong. He can turn into two animals, one a mink and the other a turtle. Basically, the way that you use this is if you want to become the turtle, you pull back the move a little bit so it's closer to you. And that will be blue, and then as you push the bar forward, the aiming bar forward, you'll see halfway it changes from blue turtle into yellow mink, and you can turn into the mink. The mink damages all enemies and stopping when it hits a god. When you hit the god, you do this amount of damage, and then you get an attack speed buff for 6 seconds. It's really nice, especially for engaging. The other side of it is really, really great for both engaging, being sort of a nuisance in team fights, and escaping, especially escaping. Knocks up anybody in his path, and gains a health shield for 12 seconds. I think the actual total lasts, and it doesn't say it, but increases your movement speed by a lot. A hell of a lot. Both of these do. This one may be about 30%. This one may be about 40-45%. They're guesses, but it's just from looking at the patch yesterday. You also gain a health shield for 12 seconds once you propped the move. So that's when you come out of turtle. I think the turtle lasts about 3, possibly 4 seconds. So you've got, let's say, 8 seconds of shield after that. Nice little shield, 215 at max. His ultimate is a taunt. And you gain damage mitigation, for this amount of time. After this, he is healed for 510 plus 20% of his maximum health. So you're looking at something along the lines of, let's say you're sitting about 2.5k as a basic attack warrior. This dude's massively basic attack, by the way, guys. This is sort of one of the only basic attack warriors there are alongside Osiris, maybe Bellona. So yeah, that's going to be really nice to heal for that. Some god skins. All right, let's do this,
Listen,
guys.
I don't need anyone to fight my battles for me. I can handle myself.
Holy fuck, she's a badass. As you can see, she's just fucking awesome. The one thing you can't see is her hammer. Her hammer looks especially fucking cool. This skin looks great, and it's going to be part of an event that's coming up. I'm sure that'll be in the patch notes as well. We got the Capri, by far the best skin coming out. Chef Special looks unbelievable. Got some really, really fun stuff, like his ultimate looks fucking amazing. Fenrir, now I've heard this is a tier 2. For a tier 2, I think it might be one of the best in the game. I think it looks fantastic. Every bit of orange that you can see on him there glows. Glows and pulses. His fur is actually less grey and more brown, which I think is awesome because it goes away from the sort of grey and black that he normally is. Tier 2 Skadi skin looks pretty cool. In my opinion, looks very similar to the other one with just a slight recolor. The Illustrious, so this is his second skin. As you can see, it's a little bit more golden, a little bit of pink, and the teal. So a little bit different to the silver and the blue, and obviously the shiny metally grey. New god cards. This is really good. If you like the heavy metal skin and you own the heavy metal skin, or even if you don't, this card looks awesome, and it's much more in line with what the actual character looks like when he's running around on the screen. So that's really cool. I like that. A new cutesy to go along with AMC, Thor, and Freya. There's probably a couple that I've missed. Some achievements, if you guys want to see them, pause it. We're not really going to go into achievements too much. Summer of Smite. Summer of Smite is back. Over the next 2 months, we'll be adding new content every week to unlock. So now this is the event, as well as bonus rewards unlocking a certain amount of items. So in case you guys missed, or if you guys didn't miss, I think it was called something of the Underworld. It's going to be like that. It's going to have loads of things, and the more that you unlock through doing a few quests or buying skins will eventually give you a couple of rewards down the bottom. So you can get the Rockabelle Bellona and the Chef Special Capri, both when it's released, and then the rest will be released every week from there on out. A new loading screen, Tropical Paradise, I'm sure it'll look badass as fuck. Miscellaneous, the item store now stores relics and consumables in their own area. So the consumables, if you clicked on consumable on the right hand screen, on the right hand side of your item store, the shop, you'd be able to see all of the consumables. Now all of the related relics to your class, so be you physical or melee or magical, sorry, they will be up there and stuff like that. New relic thorns, fucking awesome. If you guys played in season 2, you'll remember something called Shield of the Underworld, I think it was called. This is very similar to that. It basically reflects back 40% of all damage for the next 5 seconds back to the person as magical damage. This is basically to sort of level out the hunter meta a little bit, because hunters are insanely strong. If you get this on a warrior, say, or a tank, as well as let's say higher than the Armenian lion, once you proc this, they're almost not going to be able to touch you, because if they do, they're going to take an insane amount of damage back. So that's really good. New relic phantom. I wasn't too blown away with this one. It basically allows you to move through stuff. And gives you haste and fatalis for the duration of that. So you get haste and fatalis for 5 seconds, and you also can walk through stuff like Odin cages. That's probably one of the main things. Thor walls, that's kind of useful. Ymir walls, again, kind of useful, not amazing. They're not huge. It's not hard to walk through them. Buff camps, if you were interested in walking through that. Minions in lane. Any sort of placed objects, so Vulcan's turret, etc. Kind of alright, 140 seconds. I'm not sure it'll be used much. This is really good because it wasn't being used too much, because the 5 seconds was a hell of a long time to wait. That's down to 3 seconds. Perfect, banging. I think that's right up balanced. This is good as well. This is basically, as far as I could tell, the devs were saying yesterday, this is to bring healers back into the meta a little bit. That's not the only thing. Frenzy now has a 20% attack speed increase for the duration. And from what I heard, there's two reasons why they've done this. Because it was a little bit lackluster compared to Shell, because there's a lot of relics that go sort of against each other. So, for instance, you've got Curse, you've got Sprint. You got Frenzy, you got Shell. Shell basically was stronger than Frenzy, so to even that out, you get the 20% attack speed as well as the damage increase. So nothing's going to change; it's just added attack speed. So that's they wanted to balance it out a little bit, but they also wanted to make sure that you can really feel when it's being activated. So unless you're looking at your character and you're like, oh, I've got those weird little red swords glowing around me, I must have Frenzy, someone's popped Frenzy, you will notice it because your attack speed is going to drastically increase. And as soon as you notice that, you'll be like, oh, I must have Frenzy up, I'm going to do some real damage now. Whereas maybe you wouldn't have spotted it before. Scout, this is kind of cool. It's a little bit of incentive to counter ward. If you get Scout, you gain 25 gold for each relic that you have revealed, and an additional 50 gold for killing the actual relic. That's what they said yesterday. It's not on the patch notes today. It might have been changed, but as far as I know, it's 75 if you reveal and destroy each ward. So that's pretty cool, and it's got a slight reduced cooldown. So yeah, sweet. We like that. The sprint duration's dropped and the cooldown has increased. Kind of makes sense. Sprint was pretty OP. It allowed you to do some real filthy stuff and get away without any real consequences. Sunder. Now this is interesting because a lot of high tier players really liked Sunder as it was, but this is going to make it really quite viable to casuals as well. It's basically increasing the protection drop that you do to players hit by Sunder. So, you know, where before it was like, oh, you know, I'll do some extra poke. Now it's really like, oh, I can really peel some protections off of a tank. On top of that, it gives you a 30 speed. It gives them, sorry, a 30% attack speed reduction for the duration of who knows, because it doesn't say. So that's interesting. The teleport time is increased a little bit. The main reason they said this is because not many people were getting ganked when they were teleporting. So maybe that'll change that a little bit. Wrath, now this is incredibly interesting. It does increase damage to buff camps and jungle bosses, but it stuns gods for 1 second, which is really, really interesting. And I think that Wrath's going to be picked up a lot more for that very reason, because if you chuck a stun into your kit, if you're an assassin that doesn't have a stun typically, then you could become very, very strong. Like Serket doesn't have a stun, so she could use it, so on and so on. For that reason, for those two incredible buffs, they've put the cooldown up a little bit, which is totally understandable. Item changes, a new item, Ritual Dagger. The artwork hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'd imagine that's probably going to be it. It's very cheap. It gives you a ton of health. It gives you cooldown reduction. It gives you attack speed. It gives you movement speed. Now, if all of that wasn't good enough on its own for 1,850, I think that's a good deal at 1,850. I really do. You get an insanely overpowered passive, and I think they're gonna need to fix this, because this is insane. It increases the duration of relic effects by 50%, guys. So if you use Wrath, you're going to be stunning for a second and a half. If you use Sprint, you're going to be sprinting 7.5 seconds. If you use Shell, you're going to be shelling for 7.5 seconds. Everything increased by 50%. I think that's immense, and I think it's going to be picked up by a lot of players. Really, really cool. This is interesting, and I don't know how it's going to fit into the meta, so I'm not even really going to put my opinion in. It's 2,200, 250 health, a little bit of physical protection, and the aura basically allows you to really utilize your towers and attack enemy towers. If you're within the tower range, almost always within the tower range, you increase your tower's attack speed by 30%, and if you're in somebody else's tower, you decrease its attack speed by 30%. So really cool. Makes it quite a lot harder for somebody to push if you're sitting underneath that tile with Emperor armor on. Adventurer's Blade now has no crowd control reduction, but has an increased movement speed. I think it's cool. I'm not sure it'll make too much difference. This is awesome. That's what it needed. It was already good. I've always liked Ansel, and I always think it's really underrated. Nobody seems to really pick it up. They've changed the passive, and basically what this allows you to do is jump into a fight, and the next magical ability that you take sends out a shockwave and silences all units within 20, all enemies within 20 units for 1 second. Cannot be triggered more than once every 60 seconds. So what this is going to allow you to do is going to allow you to do stuff like jump in as Odin and know that when you land and you take that first ability, that if you're on top of them, they're not going to be able to follow up with the damage, the ability that they'd want to straight away. They've got a second silence, which basically gives you a little bit more time to work. Executioner. Now they didn't. Oh, okay. So yeah, they've got this wrong. That isn't Executioner. Actually, that's Bancroft's Talon. So the patch notes are a little bit messed up here. Basically, Bancroft's Talon, basically, for each percentage of health lost, you used to gain 1 power. So at 1% health, you'd have 99 power. But what it means is to get the full 100 power, you'd have to be on 0 HP, dead. So you can't actually get the full extent of the passive on Bancroft's. They're going to change that so that when you're at 25%, you get the full amount. So at 26%, you're going to be getting 74% power, 74 power, sorry. But as soon as you drop down to 25% health, it'll go from 74 up to 100. I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I can explain it. Golden Bow removed from the game. Huge fucking change. Basically to stop hunters picking up the same item every single time. Every hunter starts with Golden Bow. I mean, sometimes you'll see a trans build, but typically every hunter wants to clear lane because it's such a good clear. 55 power, it's insane. It's being removed and it's not coming back. Heartseeker's been increased. Really, 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 really huge fucking patch here, guys. So I'm just trying to get through it as quick as possible. Sorry if I'm banging on. I'm trying to go as quick as I can. Yeah, basically what this allows you to do is for each basic attack that you land, you increase your attack speed by 3%. So if you land all 5 basic attacks, you're going to be sitting at 15% increased attack speed. The next ability that you use, so if you're a Loki or whoever it is, a big spiky character, most assassins, it gives you a 40% physical power buff for 3 seconds. Now that's important because Loki would get the 40% on his next ability, right? Because it's like a one-hit ability. But let's say you're playing someone like Thor and you've got your spin up, then it's going to be giving you the 40% physical power at full stacks on your next ability. So say you use your spin once you've got full stacks, you're going to be getting that full 40% for 3 seconds. Now if you're level 1 and you build this first item, that's really naughty, and I think you're going to see quite a lot of people try Heartseeker start along with Red Buff. I think it could be interesting. I think you could really hit hard. In my opinion, this is a little bit like the starter, right? And Soul Stone, I think it's called. I'm not too sure. I might have that wrong. Similar sort of passive. This is good. It's much better now. Enemies within 20 units that are slow take 10% more damage from all sources. So if you're Ymir, who has a natural slow when he hits with his hammer or any ability, if you're on top of them within 20 units, they take 10% more damage from all sources. That's you and any enemy gods, any minions, any towers, anything. So I think that's really cool. It's not. I think it's pretty balanced as well, so that's good. Genji's garb now has a little green shield that comes up when it happens. Spectral armor. When you activate a relic, all cooldowns are reduced by 3 seconds. This effect cannot occur once. This effect can only occur once every 30 seconds. Sorry, guys. So yeah, it's a little incentive to use your relics more often if you really want the extra 3 seconds. If you're hunting somebody and you're like, oh, when's my move going to be back? It's a good way to get that move. So that's really cool. This won't make much sense to you guys, but basically what it means is AMC shoots out of his left hand, right? And it was really quite to the side. So as you were shooting, you sort of had to line your shots up with your left hand, as opposed to most, or sorry, all other hunters, which will shoot almost from the middle of their body. They will put their hand into the middle of their body and they will shoot like that. So Neith pulls her bow from the middle of her body, and therefore the arrow goes from the middle of her body. This was really to the left, and what it means is anybody that plays AMC, you're basically going to have to, you might have to readjust and get used to that a little bit, but it's just it's more of a visually thing. The damage from honey has been increased at the beginning, but ends up the same at the end. Well, increased by 1. But yeah, it's basically just to get you a little bit more of an early start now that Golden Bow's been taken out. So that's good. Why on earth Anubis need an update? Guys, shameless plug going on here. If you haven't checked out my channel and some of the fucking sweet content that's on there, one of the places that I've got up there is highlights, I think it's called. We've got Nox, Anubis, they're just general highlights, and then I think I've got like another Anubis one with like a 2-minute play as opposed to a cut together video. Anyway, you'll be able to see just from them, and I'm sure yourself you know how powerful Anubis is, but for some reason his movement speed's been increased a little bit, which is kind of cool. It means that maybe you could go book first item as opposed to boots, which I do anyway, but that makes it definitely more viable. This has been decreased, which is insane because, you know, it's horrible. And increase the radius of Death's Gaze. Now, Death's Gaze doesn't look like that. Death's Gaze is the one with the B. Oh no, sorry, Death's Gaze is not the one with the B's. Death's Gaze is your ult. And it's also got a small visual effect. Instead of being 1 beam, it's now 2 beams coming out of each of his eyes. So that's kind of cool. It makes it a bit easier to land your ult. They were worried about Alquan being too spiky, so they dropped his damage on his Windstorm, which is his lowest cooldown item, by a little bit, so that's always good. This one's a little bit hard to explain. Basically, she shoots the spiders forward instead of them just appearing at a spot. And they can hit walls, they can be blocked by Ymir, all of that type of stuff. And when they do get there, they're pretty much the same as they were before. Aphrodite's new passive, she still gets her old passive, but it's now just on her kiss. So it's just part of the kiss. Her new passive is awesome. She gains protections for each enemy or friendly god within 70 units of her, stacking up to 9 times. So essentially you could have everybody in arena all within 70 units of her, and she's going to be gaining I can't do maths because I'm unbelievably stupid. 36 magical and physical protection. So that's quite a large amount. So really cool passive for her. I think it's going to be kind of cool. Again, a buff on top of the nerf to curse. Nerf to curse, buff to Aphrodite, buff to Chang'e. Her scaling on her heal has gone up to 40%. Healers could see a slight comeback. Could be interesting. Fafnir's stun has been increased a little bit. That's kind of cool. The damage over time has now deals from the second that you land it as opposed to 1 second after you land it. People were getting a little bit weirded out by landing an ability, not seeing any damage for a second. It's exactly the same with the other 2 abilities that they all say exactly the same thing. And his damage has been increased. His base damage on his Dragon Breath has been increased a little bit. So a little bit of a buff for him. Guan Yu, new passive, his maximum stacks have moved up to 30. But when you do that, it has a real increased boost to the next ability that you use. So once you've got full stacks, you can basically choose which one of these moves do I want to be really fucking strong. So as you can see, when boosted by Painless, the horse stun, your final hit on your horse, stuns for 2 seconds, so you're increasing your stun by twice as much as it used to be. But then you've got to get it up to 30 stacks instead of the old 20 stacks. So interesting. Heal goes up. Everything goes up. You can see yourself. Yeah, Hell's switch stance is the full charge to get back into whichever you were, light or shadow. That has been decreased by 2 seconds. Definitely needed. Her slow's been increased 10 at every rank, definitely needed as well. And the scaling off of her Inspire has been increased. I'm not sure if that was needed, but it makes her more viable. So yeah, pretty cool. Najar's successful, if I could speak English, basic attacks and abilities hit, and 2 stacks from critical hits. Each stack provides her with 0.5%, and all stacks are lost after being out of combat for 5 seconds. Now, what this means is it takes you 6 seconds to leave combat. So once you've left combat after 6 seconds of landing a hit or being hit yourself, then the timer starts. Then the 5-second timer starts. So actually, it's in a way, I think it would have been easier if they worded it 11 seconds out of combat. So yeah, really cool, great new passive. She needed it. And yeah, so she gets an increase to her heal depending on how many stacks you have on your passive. Odin, this is grim. Whenever a god dies in the battleground, regardless of where the fuck they were, if you're at fucking base on Conquest and they died next to their Phoenix, you gain a 10% movement speed and a 10% power buff for 10 seconds. This buff can stack up to 5 times. And what that means is if 2 teams have gotten into a massive fight near Fire Giant, and one of your allied dies, all of a sudden you've got 10% movement speed and power buff. Odin already hits like a truck. Then it happens again, bang, fucking another 10% power buff. You can potentially, if 2 players die on your side, 3 players die on their side, whatever the outcome being, you could end up with a 50% increased power. And everybody knows that if you land your jump with your shell on, with your shield up, you hit for like 500-600 anyway. So you could potentially be hitting for like 700-800 if you manage to, if everybody dies within 10 seconds of each other. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it really does have a potential to snowball in massive team fights. So I think that's going to be really powerful for him. He still gets his old passive. It's just been moved into the Ring of Spear ability, gaining the power exactly the same as it used to be. Removed some magical protection scaling because he didn't need it. He wasn't supposed to be tanky, and he is, so he's going to not be tanky. Little bit of HP taken from Rata, needed. Little bit of damage taken from Rata, needed. Is it enough? No, of course it's not enough. Rata's still going to hit like a goddamn truck. We know that much. But there's a chance that you might survive an engagement that you previously wouldn't have. So it's something. This is good. The 12-second sprout on his verdant growth has been reduced to 5 seconds. Thank fuck, and it's 20% at all ranks. So you know this does make him a little bit more viable, especially if you're, you know, let's say you're laning with a super hungry hunter or an ADC, then you can sort them out with some mana. This is all tooltip stuff and boring as hell. And Vulcan has a new passive, quite a cool passive actually. When he successfully hits an enemy god, not a minion, enemy god with an ability, he gains 15 MP5, so he gets some of that mana back that he's just spent landing the ability, and a 15% movement speed for 5 seconds, because really he doesn't have much of a getaway. He's got his backdraft, but you know, it's not much, so that gives him a little bit of speed to get in and out. And that about wraps it up, guys. I mean, that was so much in such a short period of time. I think this is going to be great. And I think the new skins are fucking awesome as well, especially like Fenrir's and Capri's. I think Bologna's looks pretty badass as well. Yeah, so that wraps it up, guys. We're going to leave it there. And, you know, leave a like if you like the video. Fucking hell, this should be coming out, I'd say hopefully next Tuesday. If it's not next Tuesday, then the Tuesday after that. So for anybody watching this video a little bit late, that might be Tuesday the 5th of July or Tuesday the 12th of July. Either of them, look forward to it. It's going to be fucking awesome. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace. I'm out.